Hey guys, welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete channel. I am Dr. Paul Rimmer, and today we are going to talk about ways to speed up our recovery. Okay, so we're going to talk about 5 key ways that are backed with some scientific evidence, some which are really well established, and 1 or 2 maybe a little bit hazy, but definitely something that's worked for me and definitely something that works for my athletes. So first way to improve your recovery: make sure that we have adequate energy intake. This is one of the biggest issues that I see with athletes, particularly athletes that are doing long distance, ultra endurance type activities. They might have a really long run day, burn a load of calories, and although their weight might be stable over the course of a week, because their weight's not going up and down, on those training days, they're not eating enough calories back, and therefore what happens is their recovery is then diminished, and that fatigue then carries over for the next few days. So make sure that we're matching our energy intake to our demands. Second thing, adequate protein. I've done a video on how much protein you really need, which I will link here once it's done, around about here somewhere. And on that, we talk about protein needs. Recommendations for athletes or endurance athletes are usually in the region of 1 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Strength athletes, 1.6 to 2-ish. I would say for endurance athletes with high training volumes, particularly hybrid athletes, people like that, trying to get up to that upper end of that 1.6, 1.8 grams per kilogram range is exactly where you need to be to support recovery. And although there's other recommendations that say maybe that needs to be a little bit lower, I kind of disagree with those recommendations. I'm not going to go into that here, but I do have a video on that which explains how much protein we really need, the science behind that, and why maybe some of those numbers aren't what we might expect. Okay, the third thing is to eat our fruits and vegetables. Okay, we talk about calories, we talk about carbs, we talk about fats, we talk about proteins. We need to make sure that we're eating our 5 a day, 6 a day, 7 a day, how many other day it is, depending on where you are in the world. But basically, we want to try and eat the rainbow. Vitamins and minerals are important. They facilitate the reactions in our body that promote recovery. They do things like control inflammation. Now, people talk about control inflammation like we need to control all inflammation. Inflammatory responses to exercise are usually an important part of the adaptive process, so we don't want to control it too much. You don't want to be smashing loads of antioxidants in there, loads of vitamin C, things like that. But if we have enough vitamins and minerals, all of those enzymes in the body that promote recovery, all of those tissues that require those vitamin and minerals are going to be adequately provided with all the nutrients that they need in order to repair, recover, and grow. Okay, so now we're on to point number 4, sleep. Sleep is one of the things that most people know about, but I'd say is the thing that most people sacrifice. Instead of watching that extra episode of Netflix, get to sleep. Try and get yourself at least 7 hours a night. If you've got high training volumes, lots of long runs, training multiple times a day, try and learn to nap. Okay, get those naps in, particularly if you work late or have to be up early, and getting that 7 to 8 hours a night sleep is difficult. Generally speaking, for athletes who take their performance really seriously, the more sleep the better. So get used to napping if you can't get it in there. For me personally, I think a good nap duration is between 20 and 40 minutes. Anything longer than that, you tend to then fall into kind of like a deeper sleep, and that's when you wake up sort of feeling groggy and a little bit kind of confused and a bit disoriented. So for me, 20 to 40 minutes is perfect. Try setting your nap durations for different durations and see where you come out, what works for you, and that's best. So make sure we get at least 7 hours a night sleep, and make sure if we're not getting that, or even if we do feel we need a bit more energy, then we are getting those little naps in there to really bump up that sleep volume. Next thing, hot baths. Now this is one you might not have heard of. So people, cryotherapy, ice therapy is something which is fairly popular at the moment, but actually heat might be better for you in terms of recovery. One of the issues with ice is that it actually controls inflammation. Now that might be good for contusions, injuries in the short term, but actually that acute inflammatory response that we get from training, whether that's endurance training, resistance training, is actually an important signaling pathway that triggers the adaptations that we actually want, whether that's muscle growth, whether that's increases in mitochondrial density, so those energy producing parts of the cells, or any other performance adaptations that we're after. So getting into a hot bath and like tolerable hot for like 30 to 40 minutes may actually activate something called heat shock proteins. Now what these things do is they don't blunt those reactions, but they act to amplify and speed up the process by which those take place. So in terms of both longevity, in terms of health, and in terms of recovery, those heat shock proteins might be something which we can get some advantage out of by either taking hot baths or getting yourselves in a sauna for 20-30 minutes, Obviously making sure that we're not dehydrating, stay adequately hydrated, making sure we're getting our electrolytes in there as well. It's not about sweating out our recovery. It is about making sure that we're just keeping ourselves hot enough to activate these heat shock proteins. And actually for me personally, even if it's just a placebo effect of having a bit of extra recovery, a hot bath feels nice, it's relaxing, then that is a really effective strategy for me personally. So after those really long, brutal sessions, those 12, 14, 16 hours out in the countryside whilst I'm preparing for ultras, those hot baths are an absolute godsend. Right guys, hopefully that video has been useful. I'm sure some of those things that you knew, hopefully one or two of them you hadn't thought about. If this video has been useful to you, please give me a like and subscribe, and I'll be back with you very soon.